All right. Hi, I'm so glad to have you here. And I'd like to introduce Wardee Harmon of Traditional Cooking School. And Wardee, tell everybody a little bit about you and your background, where you are right now.
Sure, sure. Well, it's really nice to chat with you today, Laurie. We've known each other for a long time online, so this is really fun. I love what you're doing.
Mhm.
Um, so my name is Wardee, and I'm married, and we have three children, and now two of them are married, and now we have four grandchildren. So
You
I'm
are
in this,
adorable.
yes, who are adorable. We're just so proud of our children and love our grandchildren so much. It's strange because when I started online and when you and I first became friends, I was in the thick of it with little kids, and now we are
Mm-hmm.
empty nesters.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has flown the coop, but there's been consistent themes and God's goodness through all of it, even though life changes. I think our values don't change, and at least for us, and in the context of our conversation today, we love the Lord and we want to follow him and give him glory and recognize his design. And so one of the ways we do that is through what we eat. So our journey, at least, has been a lot about um, embracing God's food and his design for our best nutrition and health. And so I guess the field is traditional cooking. And that's why we have the traditionalcookingschool.com site.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, it's just been a wonderful journey. God has been good to us all these years through all the changes, and it's fun to enter this new phase where um, we have little babies once again. But I was just our daughter Naomi, she just had a girl, 5 weeks, so she's 5 weeks old, um, and it's the first granddaughter because all the other grandchildren are boys.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I was telling her that it's just very special to see your child have a baby. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, we're excited and thrilled about the baby, but we're also excited to see her become a mother and to see
Mm-hmm.
just instant. You know this, Lori, but when you first have a baby, your life completely changes, and you know most of us know we're going to love our baby, but we have no idea how transformative that's going to be. It's like this pinnacle event in your life is to have a child. And then when you see your child do that, um, so just going back to what I was started to say before is the baby is exciting, obviously, but it's very exciting to see the transformation in your own child. So
Mm-hmm.
we just love to see our children become, well, so
Mm-hmm.
far it's been our two daughters becoming moms. Our son
Mm-hmm.
has yet married or having children.
Well, he's busy
Anyway,
flying around,
he's
literally,
busy
right?
flying
Yeah.
around.
Well,
Yes.
thank you.
Speaking of wonderful children,
Yeah, somebody's bringing me coffee.
coffee delivery.
Yeah, and with a good dose of collagen in there, and it's an herbal coffee blend. So yeah, but
Oh,
it
good.
kind of was a chaotic start to this morning. The guy showed up with the concrete forms, and they're having to excavate. And I'm recording this just after we had the tornado come through the area, not our immediate area, but earlier this week there was unfortunately a really bad tornado about an hour south of us, and so our electrician's been pulled away to help
Mm,
get that, do what he can and get places back up and running. And so he was supposed to be here today, but the concrete guy's going to do what he can do, and then, we'll get back to it and it'll all get done eventually. It just maybe
yeah.
not on the initial time schedule. So,
Yes. Yes.
uh, but patience is a virtue, and one I get to cultivate a lot
Yeah.
lately.
Yeah.
So, so this is part of the Resilient Living series, or Stories of Resilience. And so if you could go through and highlight a few of the challenges that you and your family have faced over the years and how you've dealt with them, just to give people an idea of like, okay, I'm stuck here. What might somebody got through this? I can get through this too. What kernels of information might be, could I pick up from this? Just kind of some things that
Yeah.
you really remember and were very important to you.
That's such a good question. And I have all this popping into my head. Like, okay, try to
It's
say this.
long life, very full.
It is. Well, that's how I know you feel the same when you are old as we are.
Yeah.
Which, how old are you?
I just turned 56 this year, just a week
Okay, so
ago.
we're
So
similar.
yeah, yeah,
Similar. I'm 51. Well, when you get in your 50s, there's a lot of years to look back on. And I'm sure we'll say that when we hit 82. But
yeah.
anyway, I want to say if I just think about our family, which in some ways I feel like my life started when I got married. Of course, I did have 21 years before that, but
I think of it in my
thinking,
head sort of as there's BC was before children. I mean, like you were
there we
saying,
go.
the life-changing thing, because there's been different parts of my life, and not that each of them weren't rich and meaningful and became part of who I am now, but it is, like you said,
Yes,
life-changing.
exactly. Exactly. So, um, we have three kids, and I would say the biggest change besides getting married and having children was when our son was born, our third, who's now a pilot in Alaska doing charter flights and just loving life.
Crazy.
I know, I know. Oh my goodness, the stories he tells. Anyway, but when he was born, he basically flared up with eczema from the minute one. It was like he was
Mm.
allergic to the world. He was nice and cocooned and okay in the womb, and then he came out and he just broke out into rashes. And
Oh.
I'm sure some of it was what I was eating, but he was very sensitive to just the entire environment. So we cleaned up our outsides and our insides, and his skin was baby soft after that. So it's
Mhm.
huge because I think um, I had my parents are wonderful, and I'd grown up on whole foods,
Mhm.
and then I departed from it when we got married because my husband hadn't grown up that way. And even though he told me, Wardee, I'd like to eat salads and fresh food and I don't like this stuff, I think I just kind of ignored him. And I was like, but this is how your mom fed you. So this is how I'm going to feed you. And so we did
Mhm.
open the Campbell's soup cans and just lots of processed foods. Anyway, so cleaning all that up healed our son's eczema. So that was a huge lightning bolt moment, or we say he was the canary in the coal mine for us because it was a wake up call. And, we had
Mhm.
to just question everything from soaps and laundry detergents to pesticides on the grass, then to every bite we took. And not that it's legalistic, but he healed. So then, and everything that we did was like going back to simplicity and non toxic and kind of how God made the world. Because God didn't make, um, why is the word escaping me? But God didn't make Roundup. I
Mhm.
mean, men made Roundup.
Mhm.
And God didn't put cows on feedlots. They just grazed on the grasses. They were obviously herded and shepherded, but they weren't crammed into feedlots and on medications and fed slop. So anyway, it was a big wake up call for us, and that was a major turning point in our life from which we have not departed. Of course, we've had ups and downs since, but all of us have improved in health. I would say one thing that we did wrong along the way. There's this thing in the natural or alternative health space where, okay, so we're going to eschew all the processed, but then we tend to gorge on what I now consider superfoods. And we go, just like you can drink too much water and drown yourself. Well, you can
Mhm.
have too much kale. You can have too many vitamin D capsules. You can go the other way. So
Mhm.
we did swing the other way for a time and then developed some health issues. I would say, especially me, maybe I was, sensitive to that. But, hormones all out of whack. And so I guess what we've now come back to is just very moderate and sensible, like not
Mhm.
gorging on superfoods, but not doing the processed route either. So it's just
Mhm.
very sensible. I say sensible because,
Well, no, I'm into that. That's why I call it common sense
yeah,
home. So,
there
yeah.
we go. Yes, yes, exactly. It's
But it
very
isn't all
sensible.
that common anymore, is unfortunately. And yeah.
Yes, yes, because maybe as humans we tend to go extreme. So,
Mhm.
okay, so this is the way. So I'm just going to go this way, and then we go
Mhm.
off the deep end the other way. So I guess I would say those are two major turning points in our life. One was ditch all the processed and the conventional way and go natural. But then and I'm just blame myself for this because I can't really blame anybody else because I was the nurturer. I was the one who was bringing the food home. I was the one filling the
But
plates.
you can't learn without trying things. So,
Thank you, Laurie. That's so sweet.
everything is intention. And well, I've been listening to you and I've known some of this for a while, but I don't know if you know that actually we've got some parallels going on because my youngest
Mm,
was very sensitive to things. He didn't break out eczema, but tummy upset, that kind of thing. And
mhm.
also just itchy, uncomfortable. And he's
Sure.
food sensitive, he's fragrance sensitive, and like my
Mm.
mother-in-law is big believer in Tide, and she's like, basically in the
Oh,
crowd, if it doesn't have a fragrance, then it doesn't smell clean,
not
just because
clean.
that's what she's comfortable with.
Yeah.
And we had to ditch all that because headaches, itchiness, just
Yes.
general discomfort. And he's also energetically sensitive on top of all of it too. So we've had to get um, turn on the Wi-Fi and get EMF coverings on the phone, and he can't hold the phone for too long because his hands will start hurting. And I've noticed mine actually, it's like, well, I know where he
Hmm.
gets that from because I have to distance myself too. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
our worlds are filled with so many things that, well, they didn't exist in the same way even 100 years ago. And so
It's so true.
finding our paths through all of this, you're going to make mistakes along the way, but if you stop your journey, you're never going to get where you need to be. So,
Yeah, that's right. Good point. Yeah. So I guess I'm thankful. I say that like I'm not sure, but I am thankful.
hmm
We learn from everything.
hmm
So I'm very thankful to be here where I am because, even 10 years into our 15 years into ditching the processed and cleaning things up, my health was quite bad. I was on bioidentical hormones and thyroid medication. I was so tired I couldn't function still. And it turned out
hmm
that I had got developed toxicities from superfoods and supplements because I was overdoing things that just should be in a sensible balance, like we were
hmm
saying earlier. And so that just requires being more moderate. And so now I feel great. I mean, I still have health challenges, but I'm doing very well and I'm not on any hormones anymore. And I feel better
hmm
than when I did. So I'm
hmm
very grateful to the Lord and I'm very grateful for the lessons learned. And I think they are benefiting the next generation, at least in our family, because I've
hmm
seen our children and grandchildren improve as well, just being able to pass on knowledge to them.
hmm
I love our children because they're very open to learning. Um, they still make their own decisions, and sometimes they're like, that doesn't resonate with me. But, they're on their own path and
hmm
they're going to do what they're going to do.
hmm
So all I can do is just say, this is my experience. This is what I believe right now. But in general, they're all, I guess what you'd say, very wholesome. And our daughters are raising their children very wholesome. I'm just so proud of them. Both of our daughters did home births and will continue to do so, and homeschooling and living in the country and just running around outside. And they have a beautiful life. And I love it. I love to see it. And I love to see our oldest daughter who has three boys she's homeschooling. And the oldest boy is 9. And then an almost 6-year-old. And then I'm so terrible. Almost 2-year-old. So those are the
hmm
ages. Anyway,
Well, they
um,
keep growing,
I
so it
know
keeps
they just
changing.
change. Exactly. And the way I'm remembering their birthdays is because I've been painting, watercolor painting, and I did cards, and I'm just remembering, okay, I filled out a 9 on the last,
hmm
did a 9, so I know he's 9.
Yep.
Anyway, so she is just, we homeschooled, but I was not as dedicated as she is. She is, my daughter is just such a organized, committed, disciplined person. And so she's decided, she's a homemaker and she's homeschooling and mom and wife, and that is Like that is her thing. Everything else is secondary. And she does a lot of other things. Like she likes dance and paint and draw and journal and stuff. But her number one thing is being mom and wife. And so she's diving into Charlotte Mason and just making sure the kids have this education where they get to explore and develop their passions. And it's so beautiful to see her just, well, she's definitely taking it further than I did. And for whatever reason, not catch the Charlotte Mason bug.
Mhm. I tried it for a little bit, but it just wasn't the best fit for my guys. So,
Yeah, I don't think it was the best fit for me.
uh,
But
yeah, I
but I
have.
do think it's wonderful. And I think the main thing that's important is she's embracing the idea of educating her children to be the best godly young men they can be. It doesn't really matter what they do, but that they have character and integrity, and
Mhm,
it's just beautiful.
mhm. And with the traditional homemaking role, I mean, I know you can't entirely speak for your daughter, but I mean, I feel that that is so critical
Yeah.
into, as a foundation of society, but not appreciated as much as it should be. It, I, I'm assuming her husband's supportive and hopefully, and obviously you're
Hmm.
supportive, but I just wonder if she's ever confided to you a little bit like your friends saying, well, don't you want to do something other than
Mm.
XYZ? And, the response to that,
I
if
don't think
any.
I don't think she gets anything negative because everyone in the family is supportive, and then her church community is very much on the same page. So no,
Well, that's
she hasn't
great.
experienced that. That is good. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
because
blessing.
yeah, it really is. Because I know I have a younger friend who she's got five young ones now, and there's sometimes a little friction with certain family members. Well, basically, well, all you sit around do is sit around all day with those kids, and
Oh,
she's one of the
thanks.
hardest people, working people that I know, and so that's really good that there's support. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel bad for your friend because it is not, I mean, it is a labor of love.
hmm very much
Hard
so.
job. If you do it well, it's a hard job.
hmm
And even if you don't do it perfectly, it's a hard job.
hmm
If you
Yeah.
try, it's a hard job.
Yeah, there's always so much to learn and so much to grow ourselves, growing along with our kids. And even once
Mhm.
they become adults, then there's still the
Yeah.
next phase. It never, I remember talking to my mom before she passed, and she says it doesn't matter how old your kids are, they're always still your
Mhm.
kids. And
Mhm.
it's always still that connection. And then, yeah.
Mhm. Do you ever wish you could do it over again? Sometimes I do. I think, oh, I could have done that so much better. But then I look at our kids and I think, oh, you know what? In spite of my failings, they turned pretty okay.
Yeah, there
God is
are
good.
moments that I wish I could have been a little bit more confident in my decisions and not given into the
Mm.
worry quite as much on certain things. And um
I
that's the
can't
main
picture
thing.
you as a worrier. I
Oh
see you
gosh.
very confident.
Yeah, very much so. For better or worse. It just
Mhm.
is what it is. I mean, some things, if I know the subject and go with that, but this whole peopling business is a lot more confusing. Uh,
You
intellectual
mean being with
studies,
people?
yeah, intellectual studies, yeah, straight A student, plowed through college, although grad school was kind of a bear, but this peopling and nurturing and finding your way through that, because for better or worse, growing up, my mom was a very loving person. My father and stepdad, and yeah, no, they just really never got they really never learned to love the way that my mother deserved to be loved and the family children should be loved. And it is what it is. So I didn't have that stabilizing influence, but thankfully my husband did. His parents um had a stable relationship and his dad was absolutely amazing. So I got that when I married my husband. I got the father figure that I didn't have in my background. So that was very nice. But,
Blessing.
there's always there's always shifting, changing, complicated dynamics. What if you don't communicate? And even sometimes when you do, you try to, things don't necessarily come out like you intend, or, it's complicated. And that's life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Peopling is complicated. I think you're right.
exactly. So, so overall, coming back to the different things, are there any other things, major things that you'd like to discuss, challenges that you've faced, or is that one of the biggest things?
Well, I guess I just don't want to leave anybody with the feeling that we've solved everything, because actually my husband developed neuropathy several years back that has left him essentially disabled. His feet are so painful that he
Mm.
can't be on them but a little bit each day. And so that's just a health problem we haven't solved. But
Mhm.
I think it doesn't mean that we call it Eats God's Way. It doesn't mean that Eat God's Way fails. I think we're doing the best we can, and he's doing as good or as well as he is because the environment and the food and everything is as healthy as it is. But we live in a fallen world, and there's sin and there's brokenness, and God has things to teach us through our suffering. So at least for me and my husband, I won't speak for him, but I'll just say the things that he has said for himself, which is um, he's learned so much. Like being disabled this way means that one of the only things he can do is study the Bible. The only productive thing he can do is study the Bible, because he can't really use his body anymore for being active. And he's had so many insights and so many things that the Lord has taught him that he wouldn't trade it, because it's been so good. And I can see in him how the Lord has affected him. And in marriage, you've been married a long time as well, and we grow and change. And I do think people tend to mellow out and settle in as they get older. I certainly have. My husband certainly has. So we've had very sweet times in the past few years that I'm not sure we would have had without this disability. So it's um it's not what we would want, but God hasn't taken it away. But we still do the best we can. And I think we just all have to recognize that, at least in my field, eating right is not a cure for
Yeah, there's
sin
no
and
magic
all
bullet.
fallen. There's no magic. God may bless us with improved health. He may not. But if there's any virtue in it, if there's any guarantee in it, it's the spiritual growth through the struggles, and what God teaches us through us embracing his design and giving him glory. And it's not like, well, I'm doing it because I'll be healed. Well, no, if you're healed, that's a blessing. But you're really doing it in response to God, to give him glory and say, this is what you made for me, so this is what I'm choosing. Do with it what you will. So
Yeah, I
um
think a very important part of that is that, well, a Winston Churchill quote, one of my favorites is, when you're going through hell, keep going. But
yeah.
in more polite terms, that just because your life is difficult, don't give up on yourself, don't give up on your
Yeah.
faith, but keep going and learn what you can from the situation. Focus on your blessings as much as you are able to, and don't give up on yourself and
Mm-hmm.
life. And because
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've seen a lot of countries, Canada especially comes to mind with their MAID program, and running jokes singing online is like, well, you stubbed your toe. Well, we can offer you assistance with that, permanent assistance with that. And yeah, that the value of human life is not what it should be for some people. And I think that it is so important to realize that we are put here for a purpose. As long as we're here and we're breathing air, there's always some hope. There's always
Yes.
something that we can do, something we can look forward to, somewhere we can find
Yes.
joy, and that it's a gift and a blessing, that and an opportunity every single day.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you said that so well. I
Yeah.
completely agree.
So, so overall, thank you. Where would you say, if you want to inspire people, you know, what are your key points that keep you going every day? I know you've mentioned your faith, but just as a recap, and your relationship with your family, other things.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's such a good question. You're good at this. Um, well, to try to keep it in perspective or keep it in context, I mean, I'm imagining I'm speaking to other women, or what's the audience we're speaking to, Laurie?
Well, I think we'll have a mix of ladies and gents, but probably ladies for the most, a little bit more that direction. And
Okay.
I think most of our folks are going to be similar age range, maybe a little bit older, and so they have some hard knocks under their belt too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think in this world there's a lot of selfishness and people serving themselves and seeking pleasure. And I
mm,
think our audience is not doing that because we recognize God, like you were just saying, we have a purpose and God wants us to love each other and he's given us people to care for. So if I'm speaking mostly to ladies, but gents too, because you are parents and grandparents and you're taking care of your spouse, but
yeah, and I know I would not be where I am today without my relationship with my husband too.
me
He's my
too.
rock. It
Me
keeps me
too. Me
steady when
too.
I get the
Yep.
crazies.
Yeah. So we have a job to do, nurturing and raising and serving serving our spouse, nurturing and raising our children, grandchildren, or whoever the Lord has put in our lives that way. And I think that I see a couple things. One is, in the modern world is all pleasure seeking and self-serving. Well, a lot of it is. And you have this phrase that's out there, self-care, which is very selfish, the way a lot of people say it. Um, but if we take that into the context of our worldview, which is nurturing and serving, to be the best nurturer and servant and lover of God and others, we do have to have a certain level of health to keep up.
Mhm.
And so I guess I would just encourage the ladies that are listening here to not put yourself totally at the bottom of the list
Mhm.
because taking care of yourself is part of taking care of your children, grandchildren, and your husband, and vice versa. If you're a gent, taking care of yourself is the better way to take care of your wife and your children and grandchildren. So do take care of yourself. And that is with things like, eating well. And if you'd like more information about the sensible, moderate, and God loving way that we eat, it's Eat God's Way. And I'll give you a link, Laurie, to
Mhm.
share our free Eat God's Way book with your audience. Um, but it also includes, rest, making sure you have plenty of rest. It doesn't mean eschew everything possible that could hurt you. We still have
Yeah,
struggles and we still have
we
people to
don't
serve.
choose sloth, but there's even been studies now backing up the biblical viewpoint of taking a day off
Yeah,
per week lowers your cortisol levels. So you
right.
you can't push, 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 push. People are not designed to
Yes,
do that. You got to take some
exactly.
time downtime.
Yes, yes. So don't push through. Make sure you get rest. It doesn't mean you have to get 8 hours of rest every single day, but just make sure that your life allows for
I
you to
do.
rest. You good.
I generally, if I need my sleep. I'm not a
Yeah.
just caffeine up and go person. So
Yeah. Okay. Good for you. Good for you. And I think it also means having something in your life that you enjoy to do because you are a better servant if you have some happiness and joy. And so if you have a hobby that you like, you could even indulge it for 5 to 15 minutes a week. I would just encourage people to indulge that because you serving from a place of happiness and fulfillment, you're much more effective than if you're completely drained and you don't have, because we all have passions. God's given us these personalities and he's given us interests. And I'm not saying to be selfish with serving our interests, but I'm saying that is a unique part of you. And to have that fulfillment, even at a minimal level, makes you a better servant in all the other ways that God's asked you to serve. So you think of yourself as a whole person. It's food for your body and it's food for your spirit. And if you are fed on every level, then God can use you so much more as a servant and to love those around you. So just don't forget about your own needs. Don't forget about yourself.
And I know watching your different programs and things unfold over the years that you do have a lot of help for women who are struggling with various things. And I think that's great. And the community too aspect of it all is great to see that people
Mhm.
reaching out and helping each other within the group. And yeah,
Mhm.
we're not meant to go through this alone. The whole lone wolf scenario is just something that they make up for silly TV shows and books, generally speaking. I mean, there's a few rare individuals who do fit that, but for most of us, we
We need
need
each other.
community support, and helping others helps us to help ourselves. But there's also the aspect they tell you, if you're going down in a plane and it's going to crash in the water, put your life vest on first so then you can then help the person next to you. So you do have to maintain a certain level of self-care, and not to the point of overindulgence, but yeah, put your life vest on first.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I see so many women who might, because I talk to them through email or text message, and I hear them saying things like, well, yeah, I'd really like to change our diet, but I just, I don't have time, or my husband's not on board, and I just want to tell them, just start for your
Hmm.
own sake, and then let the Lord bring the fruit because you're interested in it. You know, you need it. Let's bring it up the list because it's going to make a big difference for you,
Hmm.
and you just don't know what it's going to do and how it's going to spill over um,
Yeah,
into
and
your
then even if
spouse.
you
So,
just start with one thing, this is something that we're
yeah,
emphasizing during the summer. Maybe you make homemade bread instead of buying something with longer ingredients. And if you're not don't have time to make it, maybe you just start reading labels and look for things with shorter
yeah,
ingredient lists. Just small steps,
yeah.
because even small steps can become a lot of progress along your path if you keep making them consistently. And that's
That's
really
right.
important.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Yes.
So, anyway, I know we can wrap up here because I know you have other places to be, and I know there's guys with heavy equipment out in my yard. So we're
Yeah.
checking on that. And thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, it's really great to talk with you.
Thank you, Laurie. God bless you. I
You
really
too.
enjoyed it too.
All right. Talk
Bye
again
bye.
soon. Bye bye.